Lucky, thank you. I think I was a lucky person that Steve hit up first to pick which panel I'd like to host. I was here last year, and this was one of my favorites. I think that it's great to learn from our peers what it is, certain failures or whoops that happened. Just keep in mind that this is a safe zone. There's a judgment-free zone here. So I'm just going to go ahead and kick it off, and I'll pass it on next to Stephanie to go ahead and introduce herself. Is there a way? Sorry, technology. Just green button, right? Okay. Trigger happy?
So hi.
Go ahead, Stephanie, and introduce yourself.
My name is Stephanie Johnson. I'm the email marketing coordinator for Biltmore. Biltmore Estate is the world's largest privately owned home. It's about a 200-year-old home just nestled in the crook of the Asheville Mountains. It's very beautiful. So one of our most engaged audiences is our pass holders. It's similar to members at Disney, people who can come multiple times a year. And these pass holders are highly engaged. They have an open rate of anywhere from 40 to 50%, an average click rate of 12%. And these are the audience members to whom we send messaging like, your annual benefits, don't miss out, be the first to see this wonderful event. One such wonderful event that we share with our pass holders is our annual tree raising event. Christmas is a very, very popular time at Biltmore. If you've known about Biltmore, you've heard about Christmas at Biltmore. So every year we bring in a 35-foot tall Douglas fir tree right into this 200-year-old home. And we sent it to our pass holders saying, this is the way to enjoy Christmas. Come and see this. You see that date where it says watch live 11/1? That date is wrong. So we had hundreds of calls to our call center. This was the first year that we were simulcasting on Facebook Live. So the fact that the date was wrong also meant that our social team was getting bombarded with emails. Wait, is this the day I'm supposed to watch it? Why isn't the link live? I don't understand. What's happening? And so we had to work on our busy weekend to go in, change the date, and then resend the email that had already gone to 54,000 people.
I think we can all relate to this one a little bit, right? I think that we, as marketers, luckily we partner with a lot of agencies and vendors, and I know some of them are probably listening to this now thinking, I can help her with her problem here. So I think just keep in mind when you go to ask questions later to say, how is it that you guys kind of went through this process? How was it? What did you learn? And how did you update so that doesn't happen again? And that's the question I'm going to ask you. So from this, obviously, there's an influx of inbound calls. Your social media team may not have been equipped customer service-wise for this type of influx of questions. So what did you implement in your process to kind of ensure that this doesn't happen again at Biltmore?
We now have a rule that if you see a date, check it. So it's kind of everyone's standing role and responsibility to check dates against the web. But I also now live in horror that a date is going to be wrong, so I also always check a date. But then we also implemented a list of roles and responsibilities for who checks what in an email. So, for example, I'm in charge of checking template and image sizes and making sure the copy that was copied over is the right copy. But then we also have our marketing managers checking, okay, is this the correct date? Is that going to the right link, et cetera? So having everyone check different things kind of makes sure that we have round team accountability.
Awesome.
So that's the incorrect date. Oh, hello. And then on the next slide, we have the corrected date of 11/2. Yay! Problem solved. And it was so interesting that our correction email got an even higher open rate and an even higher click rate. So, hey, I'll take it.
Okay. I'm going to pass the buck on over to John now.
Perfect. Hi, I'm John McMahon. I lead lifecycle marketing for TurboTax, Turbo, and Mint brands. And somehow I came up with 3 mistakes, and I think everyone else up here has 1. So that's a mistake on my own. The first is a little bit of a question. It's like we typically do not have offers for TurboTax. Our customers, we have a free offer, so a lot of our customers file for free, then most of our other customers will just file for full price. When we run offers, it's pretty rare, it's a pretty big deal. And one of the things that we found out, I think it was a couple years ago, we ran an offer, and we got confused whether midnight was AM or PM. And I could probably ask everyone here, and maybe somebody here would not know. Unfortunately, the person who set up the offer for us did not know. And midnight is AM. Noon is PM. And unfortunately, this offer ended on the final day at noon. And we very quickly started getting a lot of care contacts saying, hey, what happened? Why am I not getting my discount? That kind of stuff. That alerted us to it. At that time, there's really nothing we could do about it for those people. Anyone who contacted us, we did give the correct price to, as well as plenty of people filed with the full price, even though they had every intent and filed within the offer window. So we actually used that opportunity. We reached out to all of them. We credited their account and then reached out to all of these customers, letting them know, hey, you received this offer, you tried to take advantage of it. We had a mistake on our end, and we want to make sure that you got the discount that you thought you got. We actually spun it into a little bit of a delighter for the people who were impacted by this issue. And then, the other piece we did is we don't have AM or PM for midnight or noon. We actually just say, do you want to be at 12 noon or 12 midnight? 12, we don't use AM or PM anymore. We just went to like noon or midnight to help people not have that same mistake again.
I think that's one of those important things to bring up, though, is like out of what we call an epic fail, right, where there's an influx, again, with calls and people being upset and the potential of, great business impact, right, to make it into something that is actually will become a success, more of like a customer loyalty program, and building that greater relationship with your customer. I don't know if you can speak a little bit more on that as well, or if you've kind of implemented this in some of your other, let's say, programs or fails.
Well, we have 3 fails here, but we don't have that many.
Yeah.
But, no, we really did, you want to always do right by your customer. We had targeted this group of customers for this offer, and on our end, we didn't fulfill that promise. So we wanted to fulfill that promise. So we went and automatically, like I said, credited their accounts as well as tried to let them know to try to build build on the relationship we have with these customers. And realistically, and hopefully, you only use TurboTax once a year. So these people won't use this again for another year when you're going to do your taxes again. So it really is just that one interaction we have with these customers, and we want it to be the best interaction we can have. This is a special one. We sent this. We sent a blank email to a couple million people. We were launching a new program, and we QA'd the heck out of it, and we QA'd with all kind of correct data. And what we found out with this issue here is when the program was looking for different data fields, it came across a data field at the very beginning of the logic that didn't match correctly, so it skipped all future processing and triggered the email. So it didn't go to subject line, it didn't pick up creative, and it just sent a lot of blank emails to customers. And again, very quickly. We're a tax company, so if you see anything out of the ordinary, you can be concerned about it because it's a lot of your private data is housed within our walls, and we take that very seriously. And you can see we got lots and lots and lots of calls like, what in the world are you guys doing? It obviously made it on a social, which is, just got a blank email from you. Did you switch email marketing vendors? What the heck is this? And I say that because our marketing vendor's here. I won't say who it is, but you can ask me later. So this was, this turned into like one thing is funny is it had like a 75% open rate. It has no subject line and it has no content. And it is like one of our highest opened emails ever. But there was nothing to click on. So we couldn't even, literally, there's nothing to look at, there's nothing there. And then we followed it up with the sorry email, which I don't have here, just your standard, hey, we made an oops. And we moved on from it. But what we took away from this is you can't just QA with perfect data. I mean, the point of QA is to make sure when you have the right data that it works. The other point of QA is to actually make sure that if you're sending bad things through, you'll catch it. And your program or your campaign will catch if something's not perfect. If the first name is blank, what are you going to do, right? All of those kind of things. And now, for a lot of these, if something's not right, we just eject the record, and you don't get anything. But there always should be some sort of fallback for if things aren't perfect.
Well, I think you bring up a good point too. So obviously, you have this epic fail here, and it got an extreme click-through rate.
Epic. It was big. But
I mean, okay, and you had a really great click-through rate here, right? So what is a part of your process that helps you determine, are we going to send a follow-up email or a retraction or apology? How does that work within Intuit?
a lot of times it's a one-by-one situation. If in any way it could like shake our customers' confidence in our product or the data we have for them, we're going to reach out to you as fast as possible and let you know what it is. If it's like a spelling error or something, it's like, you kind of just move on from those or whatever. But like this one was, it was early in the season, it was large scale, and it had a lot of visibility. So we felt we needed to reach out and let customers know that, hey, everything's okay. Please use us again. And this is the last one. And this one's more just kind of like strategic, but it's, remember the problem you're solving for your customers and what they use you for. So the design on the right is kind of our core campaign. We change campaigns all the time, but generally speaking, it's like 35 million customers will use TurboTax this year to file their taxes themselves. Right? We are kind of a do-it-yourself tax software solution, and that's what the vast majority of our customers use us for. In addition, we're adding more and more capabilities around tax expertise. And we're looking to find out which customers, want to speak to a CPA or a pro to help them answer some of their tax questions. They moved, they got married, whatever might have happened. But what we did in this example here is we actually went fairly broad to a targeted group with the tax advice email because we were really excited internally about this new offering we had. It's somewhat similar to like FaceTime or Skype with the tax pro. So you'll be using our product, and you can have a pro literally right on your screen, walking screen by screen through you. It's really cool. We're really excited about it. You'll see a ton of it this year. But we went out to a lot of our customers about it, and not really paying enough attention to why are they currently using us for. A lot of these customers, they do their taxes themselves. They take pride in that. And by sending a lot of these customers an email around like, hey, tax expertise, you have questions, you need to get them answered. We're here to help you answer your questions. It actually shook their own confidence in their ability to do their taxes themselves. And the test campaign on the left actually reduced units across the business by 7%. Wow. So we shook the customer's confidence enough with something we were really excited internally about that it made them less likely to use us overall.
Right, I think that's something too. As digital marketers, we're always thinking digital first, and how can I make the experience, more digital for my consumer, as John's kind of noting here. But not all the time are your consumers ready to adopt or take on that type of experience for themselves. Logging in, doing that type of communication back and forth. That sometimes what you were already doing was the right thing to be doing.
Or there's just a different segment, right?
Right.
There's AI, there's machine learning. There are people that this is a perfect solution for, but there are people that is a perfect solution for. It's not everybody. Yeah. And it's our job to figure out who are the right people, get the right solutions in front of the right people, and solve the problems they have instead of trying to create a new problem to then say, hey, we can solve it.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to cruise back through some of these slides.
Not that one. Keep moving.
Trying to get to Julie. Here we are. So now we're going to pass it on to Julie from AARP.
Yes, thank you. Hello, I'm Julie Witzkin, and I'm Director of Marketing at AARP. And for those of you who are not familiar with AARP, we are a not-for-profit organization. Our mission is to empower people age 50 plus to live their best life as they age. We provide a lot of information around topics of interest to the 50 plus, from health to fraud protection to caregiving, and I could go on and on. We also offer discounted products and services. And finally, last but not least, we also advocate for issues of interest to 50 plus. So this includes topics such as fraud protection, work job discrimination, anti-discrimination that is, and Medicare and Social Security. So if you see anyone who appears to be crawling under the table right now, chances are it's someone from my team, because the example that I'm going to share with you is not our most recent oops, but it is one that had a lot of lessons that we learned from, and we still to this day collectively feel a little bit of PTSD when we look at this. So this is an interest capture email. So like any marketer, Our desire is to understand as much as we can about our audience and then deliver them really customized and personalized information. So we wanted to send an email to invite people to tell us more about the topics that interest them. We have been doing campaigns like this even before my days in the email channel. And one thing that was different about this campaign that we did was we decided to leverage some tried and true tactics from our friends in the membership side. And membership, whenever we're doing communications to our members, where we need to communicate something about their status or their account or something that is a little bit more transactional in nature, we have found that leveraging very official looking and sometimes fear-based or final noticed seems to generate the best response. So we decided to go that route in constructing this interest capture email. And as you can see, let people know that their account was missing information. So we asked them to sign in to update their account and communicate their preferences. And the experience as someone actually clicked on this to update their account was that many of them actually got an error page. And the reason for that was because this email drew such good response rates that essentially our website could not handle all the traffic. So in addition to being, potentially concerned about their account, they were receiving an error message, which led many people to fear that this was something of a spam email. So in terms of how this did, from an email KPI perspective, it was actually wonderful. It had great open rates, not as great as John's blank email. Maybe we'll try that next, just kidding. But we had wonderful open rates. We had great click-through rates. We had surprisingly very low opt-out rates. So I think we saw 0.03, so not too high. However, we did see that there were more calls that were generated in the contact center. We also had some people that were calling our Fraud Watch network and asking specifically if this was a scam and if it was something they needed, to be concerned about. And last but the worst was that one of the recipients of this email was actually a blogger. And so he happened to blog about his experience, believing that this was, some predatory practice on the part of AARP, and it caught the attention of our media relations department and others and made its way up the chain. So we had a lot to answer for and a lot to address. And some of the steps that we took moving forward to prevent this from happening were, first of all, addressing the creative. So we started to, even in advance of, I would say, our organization kind of reorienting itself more holistically to looking at the consumer experience, to do this ourselves, to really put ourselves in the mind of the consumer and to pretend that we were the recipient of these emails. So we decided as we were going through our each and every creative campaign that was what we were going to do. We were all putting that lens on. We also flirted with the idea of having some of our senior management on the chain looking at email creatives, but just quickly realized that with the volume of email and creative that would be flowing through, that would not be a tenable solution. They would quickly become a bottleneck. The other thing that we did was addressed a process gap. So we had been communicating to our contact center. We had a call every week that the contact center was on and many other partners across the association where we gave information about in upcoming campaigns. Oops. Am I back? Yes. One of the things that we did was just make sure that we did a better job of anticipating campaigns that might drive higher traffic to .org so that we could alert not only the contact center, but then also .org, and we could, our AARP.org website, and plan accordingly. And then finally, another important step for us, which is still a little bit of a work in progress, is longer term, we need our website to be able to handle higher throughput. But in the absence of that, or in the meantime, we are also making sure that we throttle differently and or consider more batch deployments where we are going out to a larger list, and we know that it is going to generate more logins or registrations on our .org.
And I think, Julie, too, if you could go into maybe like a deeper dive, when you're talking about asking your team to put yourself in the mindset of your consumer, and when I think about your business and your campaign specifically, targeting the senior audience, I think the thoughtfulness that you put behind language takes a little bit of a different lens. Could you talk a little bit more about that, how you cater to the senior audience?
Sure. I think we've over time developed, some internal best practices and things to look for in terms of reaching out to this audience. So we know, for example, that it may not always be clear to someone 50 plus, especially at the older end of that range, what they're supposed to do with an email. So one example is in our confirmed opt-in email, we have just one primary CTA. It says click to confirm. It has a little bit of other information there, but that's the only CTA. And we still get a handful of people who will not click that button, but instead they will reply to the email to say, I'm confirming my email address. So those are a little bit of side cases, but it just goes to show that I think we still need to be cognizant of the fact that people still may not know how to interpret an email. Now, the good news is that the majority of the people that we're bringing onto our list and into our membership in general tend to be younger, they're in their 50s, and they're all pretty digitally savvy. So that's become less and less of a concern for us. But one thing that I would advocate is just making sure that the CTA buttons are very clear. So nothing vague, things that are more direct, and I think that's just direct response guidance in general, but especially important for this population. And then finally, I would add, not just thinking about the audience, but thinking about their overall experience with your brand and what else might be appearing in their inbox. So I mentioned earlier that we are very strong in terms of educating people on how to prevent fraud. And so we've done such a good job of that through our email and other communications, that our members know what to be on the lookout for, our subscribers. And so they completely were alerted to the fact that this email didn't function as they expected it to. And so that's what triggered a lot of their concerns. So just knowing what other information they might be receiving and how they would react to that, I think, is just as important.
And just curious, too, so did you send a follow-up email to this audience?
We did not.
Okay.
No.
Okay, well, that kind of concludes the oops that happened amongst the panel members here, and I know that we're going to open it up to some questions.
We're going to open it up to both questions and also turn the tables and ask you guys to share some of your ideas and some of your best oops that you've learned from. But let's start with question or an oops, whichever you like.
Hi, I'm Monica from Just Fab. I feel for all of you that go through having to send an oops. I always say a CRM person lost their wings, and I feel for them. And because we have such high-profile roles in our respective companies, when there are oops moments, I think it's interesting to manage up to, the heads of our company, explain what's going on. But when they see that these oops emails do so much in revenue or response, I think that managing up to those folks, and talking them out of sending another oops email, I guess. Do you guys find that your company wants to send more oops messages based on performance that you've seen? And how do you talk them down from that?
Luckily, that's not a problem that we have at Biltmore because of the type of brand that we are. But I have had to discourage marketing managers away from sending oops emails for things that aren't as big of an oops, like for one of our Cyber Monday sends, we had a link that landed on a page and not all of the images were loading, and that marketing manager in charge of that product wanted to then send another email. And I had to reassure her, no, we are already sending so many emails for our Cyber Monday week, or Cyber Week in general. We don't want to then turn around and send more. This would exhaust our audience. But luckily, that's not a problem I face as much.
Yeah, I mean, we don't send too many oops emails. Luckily, like, we don't have that many oops to follow up with. I mean, the last one we sent was probably a couple years ago, and it was the discount one where we're actually giving money away versus trying to make revenue off of it. And I think a lot of it comes back to some extent, a little bit of, I would say Intuit has very strong values in that we want to do right by our customer, and doing right by our customer wouldn't be trying to, like, necessarily spinning oops into, like, a revenue generating strategy.
We do not send a lot of oops emails either. I don't think we tend to have a knee-jerk reaction to that. I think we like to ask ourselves, just because of the volume of email that is going out to some subscribers, whether there's real value to the subscriber in receiving an oops email, and not just whether it's something that makes our management or our organization look or feel better internally.
Right, I think I do understand that struggle. I think that's specifically an e-commerce tendency of like, oh, but it got so much revenue. Let's sell more shoes that way. By the way, I love Just Fab shoes, so.
I was curious if anybody has experienced what Julie had experienced, because the whole world is watching when you're sending out emails, and these things can filter into the blogosphere. And there are many people out there on social channels, bloggers, who love to embarrass companies and love instances of these mistakes. And I'm wondering if anyone else has experienced something like this, where they find that an email mistake actually sort of bleeds out into the social ecosystem, and if there's a way that you handle that. Nobody wants to fess to it. Right. Yeah, Abby? Go ahead.
I'm Tara Zillow. We actually talked about this last year on this panel. Jamie, who works on my team, was here sharing this one, which was sort of an automated personalization oops, where we were pulling live social feeds into, I think, a headline. And it was a bad one. I forget actually what it was, but someone screenshot. Oh, it was an app review. It was App Store reviews. That's what it was. And it was basically app crashes upon open, because we had just released a new version, like it was super buggy, and shipped the fix quickly, but too late for some of the reviews. And then we pulled those reviews into an email, which was the "Hey, download our app" email. And the headline was literally "App crashes upon open," which was embarrassing in and of itself, but it got screenshot and put on Reddit, which Reddit is so brutal, more than Twitter, I think. And that was our first experience with being just shamed broadly by the Reddit community. And often our social team will respond on Twitter or in other social channels, but with Reddit in particular, we were sort of just like, well, probably we sort of deserve that one. Let's just take it. And there isn't really a good way to have responded to that one. In terms of the oops, it was just an automation oops, and we put guardrails in place after the fact. Execs at the company thought it was actually funny, and so that was sort of like, whew, okay. But yeah, that one was particularly painful.
Any